of course, we got to have these things where, thanks for your money, here's some more ads.
So it's complicated because it really does seem to be that, well, one, Americans love football. I feel this is a uncontroversial statement.
I like
People in the
football.
US of A and even people up in Canada and some, sprinklings down there, they like American football.
I have positive feelings about football.
And there is a large contingent of people in the US in particular that want to buy a football game, and they're going to buy the football game. And EA is aware of that, and they're basically just seeing, like, just how far can they push it. The reason why that's complicated to me is because football itself is also made for ads. Like the real structure of the real game with the constant stops and starts is also made to sell ads and bullshit.
At this point, like, it completely has worked into their, their strategy. Yeah. The thing is, though, is, again, and this is like kind of the take home between, like, the takeaway, excuse me, from when you go, like, why are suckers just eating this year after year, is just, think about how many people are playing this game in a way where it only exists as an activity when your friends pop over to play some games and kill some time before you go do something else.
Or alternatively, it is a community that bonds certain people together in and of itself.
Yes, it can be. Again, if you have a season going or whatever the case is.
Or you could say that football players can't make good decisions because they have the brain damage.
Well, CTE sucks. But the years of me, my brother, and my neighbor all running a season, I remember my cousin as well was in one time, and, like, we would just... It dominated our lives sometimes in a way that was like, we're going to simulate your game. If you don't play tonight, we're going to simulate your game. And it's just like, I'm out, I'm busy, I have shit to do. And it's like, we don't care. We will simulate the shit out of your fucking game.
I have to say that there's a part of the football that makes me a little irked. And that is the same kinds of dumbass jock moron idiots that would make fun of me for playing video games and other people for playing the Dungeons and Dragons couldn't love football enough, and then in the off season discovered, what if we played Dungeons and Dragons football and called it fantasy football?
Oh yeah, no, they're the dumbest. There's
might be the actual nerdiest jock stupid shit. Like, fantasy football is so fucking lame, I can't believe it.
So hey, I will say this, right? One of my brothers-in-law, so to speak, is someone who is, like, looking to work as a sports manager.
Yeah.
And, like, is actually, like, it's the type of thing where learning how to manage teams in that context for, like, hockey games and stuff is directly relevant to the profession, right? That being said, I know exactly what you're talking about. But, like, the thing is that there's no real blankets anymore, right? In a world of just jocks and nerds, then it looks ridiculous. But what the real world ends up shaking out to be is one where there are nerds that happen to be into sports, and there are jocks that happen to be into, like, tabletops. And things are complex and mix and match, and you know what I mean? Like, we've grown up in an age where like you can't make an assumption based on what a person's like career choices or whatever, what type of personality you're gonna get, because we're finding out about like, yeah, if you're a nerd that's into sports, you're gonna get super into these fantasy versions of the game. And I hear all the time about how the people who are the most dangerous killers that are super good at Brazilian jiu-jitsu are the nerds who study the moves, that memorize it, and have like tons and tons of like textbook tech in their head of how to counter every throw and what every movement is, and has nothing to do with being a big strong guy. If you can memorize all the ways to roll, you can absolutely crush people who are bigger and stronger that theoretically should win, you know? So it's getting more complex out there.
I remember I was playing Virtua Fighter 2 on my Saturn, and I was doing training mode. And my dad walked in and saw that and was like, I don't know why you spend so much time trying to learn that stuff. That's just dumb video games, right?
Yes.
And I look at my father, and all I can think of is, Dad, you literally memorized 40 years of baseball statistics.
Yes, correct.
And can mention any player's hitting average at the drop of a hat. And you watch golf on TV. Like, you watch golf on TV, Dad.
Yeah,
for fuck's sake.
Yeah, but that's what the men did, and that's what the peers did. So it's reinforced as it's that activity's fine, but this one isn't. It's you know
I'm
what
aware
it is.
BJ Singh is killing it right now. He's like 8 under par, and honestly, that was a pretty good putt. But Jesus Christ, Dad.
Yeah, no, everyone. That's 100%. Like that's it. Like you, every time you catch, you know, someone going in on first of all, there's just a low quality bait tweets that are just like, oh, men who play video games, whatever. Like, oh, like, you know, what is your virgin? Like, I don't even know. Like, just like dumb like virgin jokes or whatever. And you're just like, are you seriously like trying to pull this off in an age where like people are living in mansions based on their video game skill? Like what do you it's such a it's so ridiculous to try and hold to like that old thing when like de facto like you're looking at like, oh yeah, remember when Jay-Z couldn't buy the mansion that the Minecraft guy had? You know what I mean?
I do remember that.
Like what are you fucking on? Like it's just it's so, you just ignore it. It's silly.
Hey gamers, you want to play a Call of Duty? Why don't you enlist like your grandpa did?
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
sure you
Exactly.
saw that tweet
Exactly.
going
Yeah,
around.
yeah. And anyone who is, you know, you're from an age where things don't change, right? You weren't prepared for the world to change, which is also why so many older people are doing really rough this year with the general state of things, because they lived a life where they didn't have to change. Things were pretty much set in their way, and what was their experience growing up was going to be yours, and that's all there is to it. Never mind, like, even like the Corona situation. I mean, just the fact that like you're looking at fucking average incomes from like 30-40 years ago to now, and all that shit is just, it's nonsense, right? So like they've been handed a very particular way of being that worked their entire life for them, so there was no reason for them to necessarily change or update or notice that things don't work the same way anymore. So the same as perception is going to be held for things like video games are just, it's just Pac-Man but shinier and more expensive.
I've told this story before, but I've just realized more context in listening to you here, of like, I remember being like 8 or 9, and a friend of mine would come over and we'd play games, right? And my mom would say to me, I don't get it. Why do you kids stay inside, play these video games? Why don't you go out and play baseball or something? And I remember looking at her like she's insane, because the first thing I would ask is like, with who? She'd go, with the kids at the park. And I go, what kids? What are you talking about? And she'd go, right? I'm like, oh yeah. Back in boomer time, there must have been tons of kids just hanging around at the baseball field. Because the fuck else are they going to do when their parents tell them to get out so they can shoot drugs?
Yeah. Hey, let me introduce you to a filter that should be running at all times when you are in these circumstances. Parent leans forward, open quotations, and just you put the filter on, and here's what you hear. Hey, why don't you go be me for a while? Why don't you go do what I did?
In a version of the world that no longer exists.
Like, I know you're doing you right now, but why don't you go do me? Just be me for a while. I don't know why you're always in here being you, wasting all your time on you. When, frankly, back in my day, I was me. So what you should be doing is you should be being me. Go out and be me. And you're like, okay, cool, got it. Yep, thanks.
But Dad, I don't want to pick up smoking.
Fucking. Yeah.
Smoking's for losers, Dad. No, my dad never told me to pick up smoking. In fact, he was like, God damn it, you start smoking, I'll kick your ass.
Yeah.
As he would puff away, because he's horribly addicted to nicotine. But
I was just having a conversation with Punch Mom yesterday about, like, the fucking weirdness of everyone that has an obsession with using their kids as New Game Plus for their own lives.
Oh yeah.
And like whether it's it's everything, right? It like at first we were just talking about one aspect of it because language is a huge deal here. So language in Quebec is like what you choose to speak, what school you end up going to, and just and the level of just like no, I'm going to fuck your life up to force you to try and learn in a French immersion in a situation where you're just gonna get horrible grades and lose confidence in your ability to do anything. But whatever, too bad. Go deal with it, you know. And you're just putting this whole like language battle because you've got your own thing that you're, you know, your own struggles that you're holding on to that is like, yeah, I need my kids to carry this forward. Go forth and be the bearer of my torch. And it's the same for every ideology, everything that you just grow up with that you see as the most important thing in your life. Like the fucking hubris to put that on your kids and to turn them into the continued torchbearers of your own shit is so fucking just, it's so shitty to do.
I know at least one person who is literally designed to be good at sports by their parent.
Right? It's such a fucking, like, you know, and it's just like you see it at its worst when you're looking at a fucking weirdo child pageant, right?
Oh man.
Like you're seeing it at its worst when you're watching a fucking what's the show? The fucking show with the Jean Benets.
The thing for the
Toddlers and Tiaras.
Oh, okay, that's enough.
And you're like,
with
what?
the mom and the kid
and you're just with the honey boo boo, and you're just like, this is horrifying. And it's clear the reason why it's a TV show is because they know that most people are gonna see this and feel that fucking like, what are you doing? What is this?
Hey, can I ask a question here? What's up with child pageants? You all need to stop that.
Okay, well, this is what I'm in the middle of saying, right?
Yeah, you just need to not.
It's quite clearly what it's about. It's about I need my child to New Game Plus my failures. I never got to be the whether it's prom queen or just the hottie or the homecoming queen or what, you know, I didn't get my life to travel down the road that led to me being a beauty queen. So I need to take that and continue it by turning my child into what I wanted my personal successes to be because I'm that vapid, right?
Yeah, so I kind of dodged a bullet on that because there's two ways to go about it. There's you will succeed where I failed, which
Mm-hmm.
is what you've been talking about quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then there's the what I find to be more positive is please don't fail where I also failed,
Yes.
which was the majority of the commandments that came down from my parents weren't you have to be a doctor or you
Mm-hmm.
have to go to church all the time. They were like, hey, I'm going to tell you a story of some stupid shit that fucked up a piece of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
That'll get you.
Mm-hmm. And
Right? I think
like,
that's a fairly helpful point of view.
and generationally, obviously, if you just look at history, you can see that we have very little control over like the wave of where a generation goes because they tend to be not interested in what the immediately prior generation was pitching at them. So
Yeah.
if you have a hyper strict, overly controlling, button up your fucking collar and tighten up your tie 50s parenting generation, you're gonna get some hippies out of that.
Yeah.
And then after some
We
loose,
tried nothing and we're all out of ideas, man.
and then a bunch of kids that were raised by hippies will then be like, fuck this structureless bullshit. I'm gonna figure my own shit out with organization and like, you know, and return to a kind of whatever structure of sorts. But
Like
it's there's an ebb and a flow to it in either direction. But the direct, like, I'm instilling this child with the mission to make me live out vicariously what I never got to is fucking gross and disgusting. And it doesn't, and the pageantry, the pageants are the worst example of it that everyone can relate to, but it really follows down, like it goes into everything. There's so many weird things that your parents will sit you down and fucking try to put into you that are like, okay, this is not just like here's a life lesson that'll help you. This is you want me to be this or to like carry forward that. And, you know, again, language is one of those things. You know, like, people can be zealots about culture in things. You know what I mean? There will be family members that like will definitely like it can go anywhere from whatever, from the language you're speaking to like literally like, hey, you know, like, I don't know about those white girls. I think you're not doing what you should be doing, you know? It can travel in all kinds of weird directions and go places because it's like, okay, so thanks for, you know, trying to lay down. Are you, it's like, are you putting the framework down for a discussion about like ethno purity right now?
well, Woolie, like, you showed them.
You know, it's kind of wild because I don't know if you know, but you kind of are laying the tracks down, you know, and it goes all over the place. You know,
I've seen from personal example both sides of this equation. So on my end, it ranged everywhere from "don't start smoking, I'll kill you," to listen. Don't crash your car at work to get out of a shift. You know, shit like that.
Yeah.
It'll backfire on you. And then on the other hand, I am very familiar with Paige's stories, whose mom was a great swimmer. And God damn it, you'll be a great swimmer too. And that's why I went and made sure to get the best genes for your swimming.
There you go.
And create the super swimmer.
There you go.
And you will swim, God damn it.
I mean, just think about how many you know how you can refer to a nice collection of the planet as the old country? You know, like not every country can be considered the old country, right?
Yeah.
But there's a collection of countries that can. And any country that can be considered the old country tends to have somebody from there that will have at some point something to say along the lines of, what you need to do is find yourself a nice girl from the old country, settle down and have some good kids.
Man. So I never dealt with that, I had tons of friends. Well, actually, no, I did deal with that. I did deal with that. But I had tons of friends who were like, "Well, you got to find a nice Jewish girl. You got to find a nice Arabic girl.
Find a
You got to find a
nice
nice Russian girl.
insert
You got to, you
insert
know."
culture girl and
And
continue the bloodline, Chris.
I remember my
Leon, excuse me.
grandfather sitting me down and telling me that if I ever got involved with anyone, be it business or love, that it had to be a white Protestant Anglican
Mm-hmm.
Anglophone Montrealer. And I remember just staring at him, not blown away by the racism,
Mm-hmm.
but like, I don't even know one of those, man.
Yeah. No.
Like, I'm the only one I can think of that fits that definition. And I remember when I told my grandparents that I was dating an American, they had this look on their face, and I saw the transformation, and all I could see in their eyes was, as long as it's not a French girl. Like, Americans are fine. They're not the French.
Shout outs to Anglican, divorcing your wife and creating your own branches of religion.
I'm the Pope now.
I mean, listen, if you have a person whose family, like if you're like, oh, you've got a fucking super white like traditional family, and then you find someone and then the parents meet them and they look identical to you, but there's beef because they're Protestant and you're Catholic. Holy fuck, man.
Oh, it irked my grandparents to
Oh,
no end that my
boy.
last name is Boivin.
You're just, there's no hope there.
I'll never forget the first thing.
It's not even a different color.
The first thing my grandmother said to my mom after meeting my dad was, it had to be a little fucking Frenchman with a mustache, didn't it? And you're right. It's not even. And my dad, you met my dad. He barely even has an accent.
like if you couldn't tell on sight that you had a reason to hate, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know, even but
Yeah.
anyway, it's just nonsense and bullshit, right? And so like it gets even fucking more insane when you see studies popping up where they're like, by the way, like it's nice and all that you're trying to turn your kids into whatever the fuck you need to fulfill your creepy shit, but children are born with personalities. Like babies have their personalities from the jump. People will be louder, quieter, introverted, extroverted, you know, just all the full spectrum of like things you can attribute to a person. You're born with those things, and like a lot is nurture, certainly, but like trying to force your will on somebody that might have nothing of interest whatsoever in their bones to do whatever you want them to do is just, it's just the most selfish, shitty thing ever, you know?
Hey, I have a, come to think of it, to piggyback off the story I just told, and what you're saying is like telling your kids what to do.